Sham Kundrata Kunikiti Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, Maharaj. And thank you, dear devotees, for joining this evening. It's the end of a long weekend here in the United States. And we'll kick off this week with continued exploration of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The nectar continues flowing from the second canto. So today's verse is second canto, chapter 3, text number 13. And as always, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj will be leading us in this discussion, and feel free to participate. And with the questions or comments, it will be very much appreciated. Hare Krishna.
Let's go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Obeisances to Purushartha Prabhu and to all the assembled devotees. Yes. Shonaku Vacha. Ityabhivahritam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshabha Gemanyat Prishtavan Bhuya Vyasakim Rishim Kavim. The son of Vyasadev, Srila Shukadev Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? In this short section, the sages are expressing their eagerness, essentially, to hear more about Krishna Katha from Sutta Goswami. So Prabhupada focuses in on this word poetic, kavi. There's a list of 26 qualities of a devotee: kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, faultless, and so on. And one of them is poetic. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly the perfection of poetry. Srila Prabhupada, somebody asked a question about Rabindranath Tagore, I think, and Prabhupada said, we're not interested, we're interested in a poet like Vyasadev, not the mundane poetry. One time Prabhupada said, poet means young girls. That poets are typically womanizers, but poetry of sages, Rishim Kavim. He's a sage and a poet, not Vyasadev, but Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadev, is both a sage and a poet. So he's certainly worth hearing from. In this list of 26 qualities, which we learned from the very beginning, actually, it was one of the items that even when I joined devotees knew think Prabhupada had given the list that there's 26 qualities of a devotee. And we always sort of chuckled over one of them, namely sane. It goes without saying, sane, of course. But now that I've had years to reflect on it, sanity is quite an outstanding quality in this age. And it's something we can aspire to. A devotee is sane, because the whole world is really not. And the tendency to be cuckoo is quite strong. So sane, grave, sympathetic, friendly, expert, and poetic. Any comments or questions so far? Okay. Sane. It's really something to wish for, sanity. Hey touch, shushushtam vidvan, sutanor hasi bhashitum, kata harikato darka, satam hu sadasi dhruvam. O learned Sutta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us, because we're all eager to hear. Shushushtam. Shushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi. Shushusho means yes, eager to hear. Shushushatam. Please continue. Who wants to speak to an audience that's indifferent, that's bored, that's not interested? But when the audience is eager to hear, then naturally the speaker becomes enlivened. So the Shonaka assured Sutta Goswami, encouraged Sutta Goswami, that we're shushushatam, we're a submissive and eager audience. So, bhashitam, so please explain these more about Krishna. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. So Prabhupada comments in his purport about Harikatha Udarka, topics that result in topics of the Lord. And he discusses the Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Puranas, which are meant to draw our attention to the personality of Godhead. The Prabhupada discusses the claim that, oh, this is not really Vedic literature. But no, it brings us toward Krishna. So it's certainly certainly Vedic knowledge. Vedaischa sarvairaham eva Vedya. And it's mentioned also in the Vedas. The Puranas and Itihasas are mentioned as the fifth Veda. So the Vedas, the four Vedas, mention the Puranas and Mahabharata, Itihasas as fifth Veda, and therefore they're to be accepted. Therefore, one of the offenses is in the holy name, blaspheme Vedic literature or literature in the pursuance of the Vedic version. To minimize the Puranas, or especially to minimize Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is wrong. So they're full of pastimes of the Lord, so they're all transcendental literature, and they should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. With full confidence, not that we only talk from the Shruti. No. And some people say Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders. Prabhupada disposes of that quickly by pointing out that Arjuna was a householder. And Prabhupada makes the point that they should be discussed with full confidence in the assembly of devotees, not in the assembly of mundane people hearing from a professional reciter, but in the devotee association. Then it becomes relishable and enlightening. And Prabhupada points out people have a tendency to hear about history and stories and fiction and drama and so on. So that tendency is better used in hearing about Krishna. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he's a dumb stone without any name and form has encouraged people to become godless, faithless demons. And the more they deviate from the transcendental activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of return them home back to Godhead. This is an important point. When we push impersonalism is ultimately boring. People in general there's nothing to latch on there, nothing to latch on to. An impersonal, nameless, formless, absolute, no qualities, no activity, no name, no nothing. So who actually, what is that? Klesho dikataras tesham, avyakta sakta cetasam, in the Bhagavad Gita. That to try to fix one's mind on the impersonal absolute is exceedingly troublesome. Klesha adhikatara. It's very troublesome. How can we fix our mind on that? There's nothing there. There was a witty comment by some author who'd gone to the West Coast she was a New Yorker, but she'd gone and spent time on the West Coast, and then she came back to New York, and she explained that she came back because in California, she said there was no there. So same thing can be said about the impersonal absolute. There's no there. There's nothing. So how can it capture our imagination or capture our minds? It won't. So then what happens? Well, you have to have something. So then the mind slides down to mundane literature, sex, and degradation. So those who are pushing this impersonal feature are actually promoting a godless way of life. Finally, they're helping in the progress of godlessness and deterioration of human life. Then there's a footnote which is worth reading in its entirety. Even 50 years ago, the social structure of all Indians was so arranged that they would not read any literature that was not connected with the activities of the Lord. They would not play any drama not connected with the Lord. They would not organize a fair or ceremony not connected with the Lord, nor would they visit a place that was not holy and sanctified by the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, even the common man in the village would talk about Ramayana and Mahabharata, Gita and Bhagavatam, even from his very childhood. But by the influence of the age of Kali, they have been dragged to the civilization of the dogs and hogs, laboring for bread without any sense of transcendental knowledge. So this looks back to the better times in India, where everything was connected with Krishna. People would take their happiness from talking about Krishna, from Krishna Katha, from celebrations connected with Krishna, from going to places connected with Krishna. Like in America, we go to some attraction, we go to an amusement park, a theme park, we go to a Disneyland or some resort place, Hawaii. But in India, people really go to, even today, they basically go to two places, where their relatives live or to a holy place. Even today, people go to visit their relatives or they go to a holy place. More than, other things are coming in, especially going abroad and all of that. But still, the tendency is that if people go someplace, it's where their relatives are or to a holy place. Even now, of course, when there's a Kumbh Mela, Magh Mela, the, what is that other one I was just hearing about today? Where Lord Kapil Dev's ashram is, in Bengal. They have a big Mela there also in January. And probably somebody, I see a new message, probably somebody's telling me what it is. No. Anyway, it's there. So the Gangasagara Mela, thank you very much, Praveen. Gangasagara Mela. Still people go in the thousands and thousands when there's some spiritual or religious function. People go and they look forward to that, not to just a vacation in some stupid place where there's nothing but hype. And still they go. And in days before, we can just imagine, and not even imagine, from our own experience, we've seen that even though Prabhupada was talking about, well, now it's 100 years ago practically, but even in our earlier days when we were going to India, we saw that people were more inclined toward in the spiritual direction. And even now in the villages, still that is there, although declining. I know I was in one place, I forget which town, maybe it was in Andhra Pradesh, could have been in Krishna district, Andhra Pradesh. I had some business, I needed to see the chief of police. I needed to see the what is it called? He has a title, I've forgotten. Anyway, chief of police. And we were talking about this and that, and I quoted a verse from Bhagavad Gita, and immediately he was there with the next 10 verses. Just like that. It was just like part of his upbringing, part of his life, immediately. So that was the culture, that it wasn't that Mickey Mouse and useless things to occupy the mind, but literature connected with the Lord, dramas connected with the Lord, music connected with the Lord, everything connected with Krishna. So that made people's lives fortunate. That made people's lives fortunate. And they would enjoy these topics. They would enjoy going to a place like Puri or to, you can do everything. You go to Jagannath Puri, you'll get your ocean, but you get the darshan of Lord Jagannath. So people, even still, we see, you see any place where the Westerners would just build big hotels, and the first thing that actually is built in India is a temple. So you go to Puri, there's a temple. You go to Kanyakumari, there's a temple. You go to so many places, you look up at the top of a big hill, there's a temple. The tendency was there to have temples of the Lord, to have topics of the Lord. And as Prabhupada points out, this this helps us go back to Godhead, even if the topics are leading to the Lord, or even if the topics are, as in Mahabharata and other Ramayana, they're full of politics and all sorts of things, but they're all in relation to Krishna. So you get your moral instructions, you get your political intrigues, you get heroism and extraordinary lives. You get evil people and their the nasty plots and schemes. You get everything, but it all is connected to Krishna. So that is, and that's your real life, not impersonalism, and not just mundane politics and the New York Times. And Prabhupada points out that even though the Bhagavatam begins with history of the Pandavas and politics and social activities, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Paramahansa Samhita, the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalists, and it describes Param Jnana, the highest transcendental knowledge. Now, let's see, there's a lot that's been happening on the comment on the chat box, so let me check it out. Okay, Rasa. In relation to the offense to blaspheme Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of the Vedic version, if a devotee has written a book that isn't considered in pursuance of the Vedic version, but is still accepted as valuable amongst the devotee community, would it still be an offense if someone criticized that literature? Do you mean like a book on finance or social dealings or something like that? Of course, the first thing is that we shouldn't be too eager to criticize. It's hard to write books, and if a devotee writes something, we should perhaps not jump on the opportunity to criticize, and especially if it's glorifying the Lord. If a devotee writes something that's not really connected with the Lord at all, I don't know that it's an offense. It's certainly maybe an offense. The author might consider it an offense, but it doesn't seem like it comes under the 10 offenses. Then Gurudas has posted a long quotation from Satsrup Maharaj. Oh, about sanity. Okay, I see. From the 26 qualities of a devotee. A devotee is apramatta, sane, not intoxicated. Sometimes in the name of spiritual life, a person dresses whimsically and thinks he's Jesus Christ or another incarnation of God. A far-off look in his eyes, he talks strangely and gives people the impression he's crazy. Such a person may have some inkling that spiritual life is desirable, but without guidance, he has fallen into illusion in the name of saintly life. But one who is truly on the devotional path under the guidance of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu is sane. He wears the dress and paraphernalia of the Vaishnava. There's a lot can be said about sanity. We recruit people from the material world, and they're not necessarily sane, or we get recruited from the material world, and we're not necessarily sane. Sanity comes, what would you say, with difficulty or bit slowly, because the whole material world is pramatta, nunam pramatta kurute vikarma, performing sinful activities because of craziness. So the whole world is more or less crazy. Therefore, Prabhupada wrote one essay, Who is Crazy? But Vyanasha Sarvabhuta. So sanity, a devotee should be sane. We should something to aspire to. Supplementary question. The offense of inattention is now mentioned after the list of 10 offenses, but originally it was included in the list of 10, number 8 from memory. Is it important that the offense of inattention should be mentioned in the list of 10? Well, wherever you mention it, it deserves mention, because Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that inattention is like the mother of all the other offenses. When we're inattentive to the holy name of the Lord, it's certainly offensive, and other offenses proceed. There's a Burijan Prabhu illustrated this very graphically in a retreat, not a retreat, a seminar that he gave about chanting of the holy name, japa especially, in Pune. And he illustrated it this way. He stood up before the audience like this. And was talking with his back to them. And, how do you feel if someone turns his back on you like that? So we profess to want to develop love for Krishna, or to be chanting or glorifying or meditating on the holy name of Krishna. And yet we're turning our back on Krishna. Vimukha Chaitasa, turning our attention elsewhere. So this is a constant problem for the agitated mind in Kali Yuga, that we look elsewhere. So chanting of the holy name means with attention, with great attention. Otherwise, offensive. Then Samarpan says, whoops, this thing keeps moving again. Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse. One cannot say the other topics, even about creation and subcreation, manvantaras and kings, are unrelated. Even those topics about creation and subcreation, which conclude in discussion of the Lord, should be heard, because they end in the discussion of Krishna. Yes, we're hearing about, the creation of the material world, but it's related to Krishna. We're hearing about politics, but it's related to Krishna. We're hearing about kings, but it's in relationship to Krishna. So everything, when it's related to Krishna, becomes valuable. Just while I'm thinking about it, it's sort of on the periphery of my thought, but I'll bring it to the center. While we were on Padayatra in South India, I think, we were in one village, and they had a wonderful troupe that did these little vignettes of Krishna Lila. They were doing that night the Dashavatars. So there was music, and the players were all dressed, and they would it's hard to describe, but they would like assemble themselves in such a way as to create the particular incarnation, whether it was a fish or a tortoise or half lion, half man. You'd see like a tableau of these players as sort of the culmination of each for each installment, for each avatar. And it was so splendidly done, and therefore, what's the word? Chamatkaric. Chamatkaric means wonderful, wonderful, astonishing to the audience, impressive in that way. So this is how culture, what culture is meant to be. It's meant to be connected to God and his attributes, his activities, his narrations concerning him. So that's waning. Even this Mahabharata that who was that? That B.R. Chopra, his Mahabharata took India by storm. It has so much funkiness in its special effects and so on, but because the topics were all Mahabharata and connected with Krishna, everything would stop in India, and people would all gather around the television set somewhere to see these topics. It was so that was the natural tendency. Of course, I knew what would happen. That first it's Mahabharata, gets people into the television, and then after that, everything else follows, and that's where we've come to. But Hare Krishna. Rasa says, somebody else, let's see, it's funny chat box. Vijay Krishna, related to eager to hear. We distribute books, but some people say they are not interested. They say they have no time for hearing from religionists. Once a person said to me that his religion is football. Eagerness to hear about Krishna is difficult to find these days. How to develop eagerness to hear about the topics related to the Lord? Do we need to be fortunate? How do we become fortunate? Yes, by association. By association with those who are eager to hear, by association with those who are enthusiastic. The example is Nard Muni. He was just the son of a maidservant, just a little boy from a undistinguished background. But he came into the wonderful association, the magical association of the sages who stopped for the Chaturmasya, and they were naturally speaking about Krishna. And by their association, he became attracted to Krishna Katha. So much is due to association. That's Bhagavanji of Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij. One becomes Bhagavan, fortunate, by the mercy of Krishna and the bona fide spiritual master, and by the association of devotees. Now, let's see. I mentioned this about inattention because I read a quote about it today. Therefore, if we chant this vibration of transcendental sound with devotion and with attention, that is the highest type of meditation and yoga. And very easy. The process is that you chant Hare Krishna and exactly the same sound you hear. So your mind is concentrated on this Krishna, and Krishna is non-different. Yes, that's our process. Bhagavad Gita, lecture 1966. Gurudas says the other way one becomes attracted to here is by becoming attracted to Harinam Sankirtan. Again, that means the association of devotees. We're glorifying Krishna. So when the devotees are happily chanting the holy name of Krishna and absorbed in the transcendental sound, it has an effect on others. When there's a festival, Ratha Yatra, or Indrajumna Maharaj's Polish tour, or any Krishna conscious festival, people become attracted. So that opportunity, that means these programs are held to make people fortunate. It's not just for our own satisfaction, but to give people the chance to become fortunate.
Maharaj?
Sir?
Maharaj, you just answered my question and Guru Das just helped. I need to know if there is a different way for a person to become fortunate. Is it that only by mercy of other devotees we become fortunate, or is it that there is a different way?
How do you become fortunate without the mercy of devotees? I can't really think about it. The no material efforts don't make us fortunate. Of course, Krishna can be causelessly merciful. That's also possible. That's there. But generally, it's the mercy of Krishna's devotees. And by Krishna's mercy, one gets a book, or one hears the holy name, one gets some prasadam, one gets some service, somehow or other. But it's, Mahesh Pandit says, in America we gather in all the Ratha Yatras. So this is really how it is. Without the mercy of devotees, how does anyone become fortunate? It's hard to think of any other way. You trace any other way, and it's because of the mercy of devotees.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Savai Bhagavato Raja, Pandaveyo Maharataha, Bala Kridanakai Kridan, Krishna Kridam Yaadade. Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. The sages now are basically they're mentioning the speaker and the hearer, and the qualifications that both of them have, and that also will increase our eagerness and interest in the subject matter. So first they turn to Parikshit Maharaj, Bhagavata Raja. He was a Raja, he was a king, but he was Bhagavata, a great devotee. And Pandaveya, coming in the family of the Pandavas. And Maharata, a great fighter. And Prabhupada quotes or cites Bhagavad Gita that Srimatam, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vijay Atava Yoginam Eva Kule Bhavati Timata. Even a person who's failed in devotionals on the spiritual path gets the opportunity to take birth in a fortunate family. So Parikshit was better than that, because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth. So he took his birth in a royal family, but more than that, in the family of great devotees, the Pandavas. So from the very beginning, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Krishna in his own family. And then there's a discussion that it could have been that he was imitating the deity worship that he saw, and that's why he was worshiping dolls of Lord Krishna. Or it could have been because he'd heard about Krishna's activities and his childhood pastimes in Vrindavan, and so he was imitating that. Either way, from his childhood, he was absorbed in these things. And Prabhupada cites his own example, how in his childhood, he used to take part in the Ratha Yatra, and his father used to spend liberally to distribute prasadam to the children. So his childhood was, even Prabhupada said he would be playing with kites with his sister and praying to Krishna that may my kite go up. So the whole atmosphere, the whole mind surcharged with this spirit of devotion. So we see the importance of the Krishna culture in the family life. The Prabhupada used to quote, "Child is," what is that? "Child is the father of man." That the children are so important, and their direction in life is so important. And that direction comes especially from the parents. If the parents are nonsense, then the children will be nonsense. But if the parents are very serious devotees, then it's an opportunity for the children from the very beginning to get this culture and enthusiasm and have their minds molded in Krishna consciousness. I'm like a little happy that I know quite a few Bhagavad Gita verses. There's a little girl at CNJ. She knows the whole Bhagavad Gita. I think she's like 10 or something like that. She knows all the verses and she can explain them. So that's so wonderful, such a gift to grow up that way in the atmosphere of Krishna consciousness. And the parents have a great responsibility to see to it that their children get that opportunity and not some compromised, mundane, unhappy, unfortunate childhood. I was on a speaking platform with one Muslim gentleman he wasn't a gentleman actually, he was a priest, and in South Africa. And he also said that we're taught that the child from the breast of his mother should hear the name of Bismillah, name of God. That's the culture, that from that early, the child should be hearing the holy name, the child should be hearing about Krishna's activities, the child should be seeing the deity, hearing about Krishna's pastimes, engaged in topics connected to Krishna. That made Parikshit Maharaj's early life so fortunate. And Prabhupada also mentions his own spiritual master who appeared in the family of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Prabhupada cites this as the sign of being Nitya Siddha, liberated from birth. Then he says there are others who are Sadhana Siddha. They aren't liberated from birth, but they develop the tendency for devotional service by association. Then he says in the ultimate issue, there's no difference between the two. Everyone can become a sadhana siddha, devotee of the Lord, by association with pure devotees. And then Prabhupada does give the example of Narad Muni. Are there any other comments or questions here at this point? what makes someone attracted toward Mayavad? Is it good karma from previous birth or association of Mayavadis? It's not good karma to be associated with the Mayavadis. That's a misfortune, actually. But it's association of Mayavadis. The people become impersonalists by association with impersonalists. Even these, the atheists, the impersonalists, they're making their propaganda and people hear it and become influenced. People become influenced. So therefore, because that influence is very attractive, you're not different from God, you're divine, all of that. So it's attractive. Who would not be attracted? There's no difference between me and God. It's wonderful. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mayavadi Pasha Shunile, Hoy Sarvanash. One should never hear the, what is that? Mayavadi Hoy Krishna Paradhi. The Mayavadis are offenders to the Lord, so one should never hear from them. Sarpo Chista Yatapaya. It's like poison to hear from Mayavadis. So the Mayavadis should be, that association should be very strictly avoided, because it's what's the word? It's powerful. We associate with the contaminated Mayavadis, we can become contaminated. If we associate with the contaminated materialists, we can become contaminated. What is that? Niskinchanasya Bhagavat Bhajano Mukasya Param Param Shigimishor Bhavasagarasya Sandarshitam Vishayinamatayoshitam Cha Hanta Hanta Vishapakshanato Pyasadhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, for anyone who's serious about crossing over the ocean of material existence, to associate with Vishayinam, sense gratifiers, and women for sense gratification is worse than drinking poison. So association is so careful, that's so important. So we need to be careful about association, and for our children also we need to be careful. What kind of association are they getting? Because that association can spoil them. If they get bad association, then that can be very unfortunate for them. And if they get good association, that can be wonderful for them. Any comments or questions here so far?
Maharaj?
Sir?
Maharaj, more or less at the end of the purport, the difference between Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas.
Yes.
My question is related to Srila Prabhupada. Is it that we can include Srila Prabhupada on the list of Nitya Siddhas?
Oh, yes. There was one. Yes, go ahead.
And if a person comes to you and asks, how do you prove scientifically that Srila Prabhupada belongs to the list of the Nitya Siddhas, what would you say?
We don't have to prove anything to you, but if you're intelligent, you'll pick up the clue. It's not our business to prove to you our Guru Maharaj is Nitya Siddha. He may be Nitya Siddha, Sadhana Siddha, whatever you say, but he's Siddha and you're not.
Not to me, to a person who comes to you and asks about a symptom.
That's what I'm saying. Anyone asks that he may be this Nitya Siddha, Sadhana Siddha, but he's Siddha and you're not.
Siddha means perfect.
Yes.
Okay. He is perfect and I am not perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
But if you're intelligent, you can pick up the clue here that Prabhupada mentions that this is sort of the pattern of Mirabai, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who are very fortunate. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, he mentions Goswami families. People who are fortunate can only by very good fortune one takes birth in such an exalted family and becomes attracted to Krishna from the beginning. There was one interview, I think it was in an airport. It was at an airport, and one media person with a microphone was asking. He was trying to be. Well, he wanted to ask Prabhupada when Prabhupada had become, had to become self-realized, basically, when he'd become God-realized. That was his question. And Prabhupada sort of didn't directly answer him. And he sort of repeatedly expressed in a humble way that perhaps I'm not expressing myself clearly, and I know that I'm not very advanced, but your divine grace, what I'm asking is, and Prabhupada said that first he said, I don't remember any time in my life when I was not Krishna conscious.
Yes, that's the answer I need. Thank you very much.
And then still the man didn't quite get it. So Prabhupada said, you can say from 5 years old.
Yes.
The man was looking, when did you attain realization? Prabhupada said, you can say from 5 years old.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. And Shara has a comment that because we're talking about Harinam Sankirtan, that who's performing the Harinam Sankirtan? It's the devotees. So again, it's association. And Samarpan says, if you want scientific proof, read Prabhupada's books. Okay.
Maharaj, could I also ask a question? Is it
sure?
I'm wondering. Sometimes I'll hear devotees when they speak about their spiritual masters. Sometimes someone may refer to their spiritual master by saying such and such back when he was still a brahmachari, or back when he was still less Krishna conscious, or they'll refer to their spiritual master in a way to suggest that that he's certainly that he's a sadhana siddha. And I know that there's no difference ultimately if they're a nitya siddha, sadhana siddha, but is it wrong for disciples to see their spiritual master as a sadhana siddha? Is that problematic, or is the opposite just being fanatical?
No, it's not problematic. Prabhupada mentions Narad Muni as sadhana siddha, and he is the guru of all of us. The history is there that he was just the son of a maidservant. So, but he became such a great, he became the guru of all of us. So sadhana siddhi. Yes, not offensive. Just there's sort of a cultured way to do it.
Right. Okay.
Back when my Guru Maharaj was, in Maya before he went to, that's not really a very cultured way to put things. But there are other ways of acknowledging that, we had a life before the association of devotees. When it comes to being like householder life, let's say Purva Ashram, his previous ashram, not, when he was in Maya, deep in the well of householder life. So there's a cultured way to refer to these things, but we don't have to fake it and try to make the case, no matter what, against all evidence, that our spiritual master is really a nitya siddha. Or from another point of view, and Prabhupada reconciles it here, that, why are we arguing about this? Nitya siddha, sadhana siddha, siddha. If someone's perfect, what's the issue here? That all right?
Yes, perfect,
Yes,
Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're at 4 minutes of, and I don't think we should embark on the next verse. We can stop here and start from 16 next time. And I will hand things over. That's San Diego, by the way, those of you who are feeling envious that September is beginning here on the East Coast. And it's another beautiful day in San Diego. The sun is shining, as it
One of the
always
best
does.
cities in America in terms of weather, and one of the best cities in terms of weather.
Beautiful. I lived there for a while, and it's Krishna has made a very beautiful weather there. They call it coastal desert weather.
Right.
It's beautiful weather, but here we have. But California is all up in the air, you know. It's full of airheads here. Here, I'll just tell you a quick story since I have 2 minutes left. I was out on the West Coast for quite a number of years with the BBT, and there were, for all of its nice weather and everything, there's this sort of airiness to a lot of the people on the West Coast, and a kind of sense that, you know, relax, everything's fine, you know, it's just, you know, life is good and all of that. I had a cousin who was in charge of textbook production for McGraw Prentice Hall, and he moved out to California and became miserable because you know, his whole staff was like that, whereas in New Jersey they'd all been hardworking. It's like, relax, it'll get done, you know. So anyway, I was out there in this arid atmosphere of Los Angeles, and then I went to India, and on the way I stopped in New York at JFK, and immediately it felt different. It's you know, I felt like I was I touched ground again. I asked a cop, "How are things going?" He said, "Lousy." I said, "Yay!"
Finally, something real.
And Shara mentions that we have fires right now in California.
A lot of fires, right? Yeah.
So reality does even reach California. Okay, enough California bashing. It's time to hand things over to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Raj. Thank you for another lively session. Those of you interested, please join Maharaj and the devotees for the Vanaprastha Adventure. It happens just once a week, 7 to 8, on this Vanaprastha Adventure Zoom channel that you can find on Maharaj's website, jswami.info, under the About section. And we've been announcing for the next 4 Sundays, starting this coming Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a very special seminar on practical application of finance planning for devotees. I'd like to request His Grace Vamshi Dari Prabhu. Vamshi Dari Gopal Prabhu has been joining our sessions for a long time now, and he's here personally, so I want to request him to do a brief intro of this course, and I'll give a brief intro about himself. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna devotees. So, like I'm Vamshidhari Gopal Das. I'm presently based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been practicing Krishna consciousness since last 3 years. And but in the personal finance field, I have been involved since last 15 years. So I have been following all the principles of personal finance and how to make our life successful in terms of that. So coming to this seminar, the background of this seminar came from Vanaprastha Adventure series, which Maharaj is taking every Thursday. And I have been attending that since beginning. So 3 particular things came out as concern in that seminar. Is that like first is that many devotees feel that they cannot take Vanaprastha because they are not financially secure, and they need to prolong, like Maharaj keeps saying that ideal age is 50 years, but many devotees practically cannot even at age 60 or 65 think of taking real Vanaprastha, just because they think that financially they are not secure. And then second concern came out is that as a grahastha, it's responsibility of grahastha ashram to maintain all other three ashrams in terms of providing support. But if grahastha themselves are struggling, then how can they provide support to other three ashrams? So that means that the whole backbone of our movement and our institution is at risk because grahasthas are not taking their financial life responsibility. So it means that they cannot support other three ashrams as they should. And the third thing is that as grahastha, our responsibility is to focus on sadhana so that by the time we reach the age of vanprastha, we can devote ourselves completely. But the thing is that most of our grahastha lifetime goes into maintaining and earning the livelihood. So instead of keeping Krishna in center, most of the time money and job is in center, and that way we lose our focus. And then even if we reach the vanprastha stage, and even if we have the money, but we have not yet developed the taste, so we can't take vanprastha life seriously because we have not developed that sincerity or we have not developed that taste. So my objective in that seminar would be to focus on all the aspects related to finance so that we manage our finance in such a way that it's mostly on an autopilot mode. Like we don't have to worry about it too much on a day-to-day basis. If we follow the simple systematic life, then we can solve all the problems which normally a grahastha has to face in terms of maintaining their livelihood and fulfilling all their responsibilities, but still have a very dignified and respectful vanprastha life. So it's for everyone. It's not just that somebody who is struggling or somebody who has some problems or somebody who is earning less or earning more. It's for everyone. And I would touch upon every aspect related to personal finance to the best of my ability. And if needed, then we can have more focused sessions after this seminar. If some topic we need that we need to deeper dive, so we can definitely do a small session with a group of devotees who need it. But this 4 series seminar would practically covers everything. So I think everybody will find something useful out of it. So it's just my humble offering, whatever I have gathered so far to share with you all, so that it would be of some help to all of you. So,
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So please do register. If you register, then it helps us estimate the kind of content that we want to cater to. But there's no cost to this. It's completely free. And when you hit the registration link, you will actually see the Zoom link as well. So we'll be sharing that. So please do so if you're interested. I think you'll find it useful. And we've been announcing the Pathways to Perfection, a really wonderful package of lectures from renowned speakers from around the world on the 9 processes of devotion. So we'll have a 10-part series starting this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern Time. So please do join that. And I think you'll also enjoy that. This is organized by Bhakti Center and co-hosted by our New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania temples. Starting with Radhanath Swami kicking it off on this Saturday, September 12th. Upcoming speakers on this channel. So tomorrow we have Her Grace Radhadasi. She's been a very popular speaker on our channel here. And tomorrow's topic is the joy of devotion. And on Thursday we have Mother Bhagavati from Alachua, and she'll be talking on how Krishna's mercy is available to everyone. And on Sunday evening we have His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj, who will be addressing us for our Sunday program. So please do join us every day, and we look forward to seeing you very much. And if you'd like to say a quick Haribol, let's all say a quick Haribol together. You can unmute yourself to Maharaj, and we'll keep it open for another 30 seconds or so. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavad, Haribol.
Haribol Maharaj.
Haribol Maharaj.
Haribol, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Maharaj.
Maharaj,
Maharaj, thank you so much.
Maharaj, can you hear me? Maharaj, next Wednesday I'll be here for you to explain to me why do you think I'm not perfect? Please, I need the answer. Urgent need.
This guy's
Krishna.
Wonderful session again. Your classes are a must.
Wow, perfect.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
This is ultimate happiness. Hare Krishna.